Hi everyone, my name is Matt. Today I'm going to show you an IDE made by JetBrains. It's called Rider, and it can help you if you're a C# scripting developer, if you need that while developing with Unity. Then Rider is something for you because you can use it on Windows, also on Mac, on Linux, so it's cross-platform. And today I'm going to show you some of the deep integration features that it provides. And yeah, let's just start. So here I have a very simple project. It's called Pong TDD. And if you start, so it's not exactly the first time experience what I'm showing here, but basically what you do is first to say you want to open your project. And here in this case, I've already set up Rider as the new IDE for Unity. You can actually do that inside here, Preferences, and then External Tools. If it's the first time experience, then you would just open the solution with Rider. And what happens in Rider on the first start, I hope it's doing that, is there's a plugin installed which talks to Unity in the background. And actually, it should mention that it was installed. But I'm working on some nightly builds, so maybe I would just need to reopen that solution really quickly. And now you see it, Unity plugin has been installed. So sometimes you just need to open the IDE a second time. And what else? Now we can switch back to Unity. And what we're seeing that Unity is recompiling our project. And right here in the plugins folder, very soon, we should see that the plugin of Rider will be installed into Unity. So this is right here. This should be, of course, excluded from your solution, so git ignore. And now with that, we have integration with Rider. And you can see here the green dot over there. It's indicating that we're connected with Unity. And what you will get afterwards are some really nice features. For instance, the Unity Explorer. So this is very different to what other IDEs or even we before suggested with the normal Solution Explorer. You have up to 4 basic or core projects like the normal game assembly, then for the editor, and then also the first pass projects. But we also provide here the Unity Explorer, which is roughly the same view that you will have in the Unity editor itself. And of course, with that plugin installed, you can go ahead to some script and just double-click it, and it will open in the JetBrains Rider IDE. Ball movement. For me, I just need to tap. I don't know why exactly, but never mind. One thing I forgot about the Unity Test Explorer, you will also notice that some of the, close that. That some of the items over here show to which assembly those files belong. So in this case, the tests folder only belongs to the editor assembly, not to the game assembly. What other things do we have? Let's go to our board, which is a very... Is that readable or maybe a little bit bigger? Like that? Yes. All right. So one other really core things you will notice is that we show some gutter marks right here for several members of that class. And that basically means that Rider knows that this particular method is a Unity method. So it's an event function of Unity. It's not called from our own code, but Rider knows that this is called from Unity. Beside that, we can, for instance, also, let's make this big, generate Unity event functions. So let's go there, and I have to do this twice. And we will get a list of all the event functions that we can implement in the mono behavior or with the mono behavior base class. And we could just select, let's say, late update. I pick OK, and I can just implement that particular method. OK, let's remove that again. We can also decompile. So this get component belongs to the Unity API, and we can just hit a shortcut for go to declaration. And we can see here that this was decompiled using the JetBrains own decompiler. And we can just look at the Unity implementation for that particular class. OK, let's jump back. What else can we do? We can, for instance, we have some new buttons over here, which roughly present the same what you can see over here in Unity. So the ultimate goal is to reduce the amount of context switches from your IDE to the Unity editor. And so in this case, I could go ahead and just run the game from inside Rider. And my game runs. Of course, I can also say, let's wait a second, stop. And pause my game. And that's a really nice thing, because we have the step functionality, but, and please notice this dot is moving. It's only working one time currently, because it's a nightly, so this will be fixed. We already, I think we found the issue already. So in the next major release, this will be included as well. OK, we can, of course, also debug. So I have a breakpoint set right here. And let's attach the debugger. And also run our game. So this breakpoint was hit. And you can see our debugger integration shows you values of locals, for instance, like this vector thing. We can also indicate that we want to set back our current statement. So we can say jump to statement, and the execution will be set back to this particular moment. We can just step through our code. Of course, we can also debug into Unity again. So this is, again, let's go up to the top, again decompiled using our decompiler. And we're actually debugging into Unity. So in this case, it's not that interesting, but you can actually step through that. A couple of other things maybe, implicit, and then we can step into the vector constructor, for instance. That basically also works with all the other, so not just with Unity code, of course, but with all external code that you're using. OK, you can go ahead and, for instance, even in the Unity Explorer, of course, insert some file templates. We have templates for behavior C# script, play mode tests, and the stuff you see right here. I should actually encircle that right there. And let me quickly check. Yeah, all right. Other stuff you can get from the gutter marks is that you can show the quick doc. And in this case, you can see that we have the actual documentation of that particular method as help text for you. And you can also decide to just browse the documentation online. Decompiling, I've shown that. Project, unit. OK, let's show some unit tests as well. Let's go to, how was it called? Editor test, ball movement test. And another nice thing is that we can actually, let's start that, run unit tests also from our IDE. They will be executed inside the Unity editor, but we talk back and get all the results back in our IDE in a very convenient way. And so then you can use certain shortcuts like executing tests all which belong to the current file. Or if you're debugging some curious problem, you could also say to run run unit tests until failure. So in this case, that particular test will be re-invoked several times until it fails with different sessions. So this will never fail, I guess, but I guess the idea is clear. Another thing you can do, of course, and which really improves life, I guess, if we have this debug log format call right here, which would normally show up in the log in the Unity editor, then this should also be visible in our own Unity log. So right here. And again, we have feature-rich navigation because you can just double-click the methods and go to a certain place from the core stack. Another thing I just forgot to mention, actually, is if I'm changing something and I press save, then you will notice that down here, so currently it's not doing that. Down here, it's losing the connection for a short moment because Unity is recompiling, and that's the thing where you can notice that everything works clear between the connection of Rider and Unity. Yeah, like in this case. But while zooming, it's just freezing. That's why it seems. Okay, other stuff. Let's close this for a moment. And that's nice. I actually have no idea when this is coming and why. But luckily, it doesn't take so much time to start up again. So I'm actually not a real Unity developer, but I think I know the coding stuff very well in this case here. Okay, let's start Rider. So one thing I want to show you about the debugging experience, which is really, really awesome, I think. Let's wait a couple of seconds so the Unity plugin connects again. All right, it's connected. So let's say you have a breakpoint in this update method, okay? And I'm just doing debug and play my game. And in this case, this breakpoint is immediately hit. But what I'm interested in, let's start the debugger again. What I'm interested again is to, let's say, debug this particular method only after some of these blocks was hit. In this case, let's go back here, run the debugger again. We can say that, or we can modify that breakpoint and right-click on the breakpoint, then more. And we can say that this particular breakpoint should only be enabled if some other breakpoint was hit up front. So we could say, okay, inside this block explosion, I have another breakpoint, and this should be hit first. And I will just select that. You also get, while selecting, you get a preview of that breakpoint to know where exactly it is. And after doing so, we can just continue, play our game. And if I manage to... Then first, we get the first breakpoint, which is the dependent breakpoint, which enables the other one. And then if I continue, I'm in that update method again. So I think this greatly improves certain debugging scenarios. Okay, that was another thing about debugging I wanted to show you. Now let's move on to some other things. Okay, another bigger solution actually in this case. And what I want to show you here is that we have initial support, or actually very good support, for shader files, especially for the CG program part of the shader files. So, and you have stuff like, I think it's called Heap completion, because float 2 and float 4 are contained in that file already. So we have basic completion for that, for certain keywords. We also have syntax error highlighting. So in case you're missing some brace, curly brace here and there, then you get a syntax error. We have code folding, so in case you want to collapse that, you can do that. You can also look inside those collapsed parts. And also for color, which is a really nice thing, you already see that this is underlined with some green. It's a color, and by using Alt-Enter, one of the main entry points for Rider, to do something, you can just choose from a palette to do certain things, or to just select the color, actually. Besides those shader files, there's also support for CG Ink files. CG Ink, if I can type this correctly. Inside here, there's no auto-completion or stuff like that, but at least, and also no syntax highlighting, error highlighting, but you will also notice, so for instance, if I remove that curly brace, then the rest gets like normal text again. So also initial support for that. Now I want to concentrate on some of the more coding-related things Rider can help you with. In this case, it's a start method, also an event method, at least it should be, but Rider noticed that we have some parameters that shouldn't be there, and it suggests to remove them. Also, the signature should be that the method is void. Also, it shouldn't be static. So, and I can just use Alt-Enter to do this all the time. Is this too small, or it's all right there? Okay, other things, let's uncomment that. From unexisting members, you can directly just write them and later actually create them in your class. You can say, create Unity serialized field. This will be just created for you. Also with, if you want a property instead, first you create the property, and then you can say property with serialized backing field. Stuff like that. If for some reason in this onCollisionEnter method you're not using the parameter collision, then Rider also suggests to remove exactly that. So some kind of performance improvement also, because this is not calculated from the Unity side in that case. Here in this case, Rider suggests also allows to quickly return or convert a method into a coroutine. Another nice thing is you can use because string comparison has some performance implications. So in this case, Rider is suggesting to use the compare tag method, which is in some sense quicker instead of using the normal string comparison. Here, Rider tells us that we shouldn't use new on mono behavior classes, and you can also just fix that by using Alt-Enter, and it will use the add component method for that particular creation. And for scriptable objects, it will use the factory method. Nullability analysis can be helpful, so if you want to protect yourself from mistakes or to improve your code early on, you can, for instance, use debug assert, express that this particular object will never be null from then on, or check for it. And even here we have completion afterwards. If we're still checking for null, Rider is suggesting to remove this unnecessary if. Also, if you're just saying is not null, then this will have the same effect, and again, you can remove that if. Another thing about performance is, if you're working with enumerable, for instance, then this enumerable shouldn't be enumerated multiple times, of course, because all of that, all of what's inside this enumerable gets executed again. And in this case, Rider also suggests, okay, or gives a warning, that there's a possible multiple enumeration of an enumerable. Another great thing is the Heap allocation plugin. So Rider also benefits from that fact that IntelliJ is, so IntelliJ is the front end. Everything what's in the back end is ReSharper, which was our extension, or is our extension for Visual Studio. And what we gain from IntelliJ are a lot of plugins. This particular one that I want to show you is called Heap Allocation Viewer. And after you've installed that, you can see certain allocations which might reduce the performance of your code. So for instance, in this case, you can see that there's a delegate allocation, and we have also a closure. This string over there will create a closure for this particular delegate. And also, if we're doing string concatenation, you will get some underlinings here, because string concatenation is also not very performance optimized, so to say. And also here, it's char, it will get boxed, so it can be concatenated with the first string, and stuff like that. So it really helps you to detect certain cases in your code where performance can be improved. Also, this log format has some nice support, because if you're using, for instance, the index 2, then ReSharper will warn you that this is actually missing, so I'm only passing 2 arguments, so I cannot use a third one. And again, in this case also, you see that value is underlined. It's the same thing. There's a boxing allocation happening, and Rider will tell you about that. The Invoke method, among several others, has a specialized support for defining what particular method you want to invoke. So you can just go into that string and hit Control space, and you will get a list of all the methods that can be inserted here. So I could use do something, and okay, it shouldn't have a parameter. All right, then let's use another one. Invocation also not. No. Damn it. Performance. Never mind. What method do I have here which doesn't have a on mouse enter? Let's do it like this. Okay, what's it saying now? It has 2 parameters. Never mind. What you also get is navigation, so you can navigate from this particular string to that other, to the declaration. Also the same for coroutines. And again, here, coroutine should have enumerator as return type, and it would tell you just about that. And then you could just go there and say, okay, I want to make this a coroutine. No, not so much. I don't know why. Okay. Other things, so this initialize on load method, you can also just fix the signature and other stuff like that. So it makes sure that all these signatures match what Unity is expecting. Some other stuff, navigation, of course. So if you're on some mono behavior, then you can just use navigation to show you all the derived types of a mono behavior. And you can just search through that, of course, also, and reduce the list of possible classes that you want to investigate. Rider also comes, like I said, with a lot of features derived from IntelliJ. So one of that is version control. We have a very fast version control support, and beside Git and other providers, of course, there's also support for Perforce. And it's actually really fast here. So we are caching in the background a lot of stuff just to make this experience very fast and convenient. You can use also, let's go back to this inspections. You can use a feature called local history. So not always we use Git and stuff all the time. But we're doing something, then it works maybe, and after some time, again, not. And local history is, in some sense, an automatic way of versioning your code. It's doing that automatically. And as you can see here, is that 7 minutes ago, I was just modifying this particular file, and I can go there and revert it to this particular moment in time. Also, I have normal editor support, syntax highlighting in that window right here. Okay, a few more things about, do I have this? No. Where Rider is also particularly helpful is to keep your code clean. So in this case, we can see it's not very readable. Some members are on the same line. In this case, it looks like this do-always method is executed conditionally. The same right here, and maybe also here, another case, get dictionary key. Let's assume just a different method. We cannot really say what this true and one value means. And in this case, Rider is also very helpful. We could go to our settings, and let's go to formatting settings, which are pretty new in one of the recent releases. Formatting settings. And we could just activate those. And afterwards, we get some more highlightings, like here. We can fix that, re-indent. In this case, I think if I enable white spaces, then you can see that we use tabs instead of spaces here. And of course, you shouldn't go through your code and just fix them without enter. That wouldn't be so meaningful. But you can just go ahead and execute the code cleanup feature and hit OK. And everything is done for you automatically, based on your current settings, of course. So I have defined in my settings that literal values like true or one should always have the argument name in front of them, just so that it's more readable. You can see that those members have been put on different lines to improve readability and stuff like that. One thing to improve coding a little more are Postfix templates. So for instance, again, you have or let's just use an object, doesn't matter so much. You can use that object to let's make toString, and maybe you want to introduce a variable. Again, the thing is not really important what we're doing here, but you can type .var and introduce a value just by executing this postfix template. You can also check afterwards if some things are not null, then you could say you want to iterate over the string, because string also implements ironable of char. And resharper is just doing that, creating that for each for you. And then you can also, I don't know, let's do toString again, length, and maybe also do some conditions. We have a condition first, and now we can decide, OK, I want to create an if from that. Let's check my stuff right here, and I think, yeah, one last thing maybe. What you can also do is just go ahead and add a new project, and we also have a template for Unity library class here, which basically just has a reference to the Unity assembly. And I think I'm almost at the end, right? Yeah. So thanks a lot. I will be at my booth. Yeah, questions? If you need to pay for it. Yeah, for student programs and stuff, it's free. Also for open source, if you're working on some open source project. But usually it's included in a package that is paid via subscription annually. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then thanks for your attention, and I hope you have a nice day and a couple of more interesting talks.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matthias. Here's the candies from organizers for you.